Welcome to Short Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
We're here for 2 more chapters of crap.
Harry Potter. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, chapters 11 and 12. Getting through it. Getting maybe close to half. Close to halfway bad. That's not bad. Feeling better.
Half, maybe. I'm not sure we're at half. We're not.
Very close, though, I'd say. Anyway, we have chapters 11 and 12. This is Hermione's Helping Hand, which I'm sure you're going to just love. And Silver and Opals is chapter 12. Do a brief rundown real quick here.
Yeah.
Chapter 11, we get the Quidditch tryouts where Hermione basically curses a player, so Ron gets on the team, and the player who actually deserves to be on the team doesn't, because she thinks that's the better option. We're going to probably talk about that. And we find out that Hagrid is upset because Aragog is dying. A little bit of symbolism there with the death of the Force, and Slughorn, as always, continues to pursue Harry. Chapter 12, Silver and Opals. Harry uses a spell from the Half-Blood Prince's book, and Hermione disapproves of that. In Hogsmeade, we discover that Fletcher is stealing from Sirius's home, and a student is cursed with another cursed object. So we have the cursed object coming back into play there. Where would you like to start?
With Hermione enchanting McLaggen.
Okay, I figured we'd want to talk about that.
Why do the good guys get to get away with these things? Why is it that the good guys, it's okay when they do it? I have a feeling this is going to be just explained away or swept under the carpet, and I've got a very good feeling about why.
Okay.
But that's question 1. Question 2, if this is possible, why doesn't it happen every Quidditch match?
Okay.
With an entire audience full of magicians.
Okay.
There's no reason this wouldn't happen every time.
Well, we do, if we would recall, all the way back to the first book.
And I'm not going to.
We get a glimpse of that with Professor Quirrell. They think he is trying to curse Harry, or they think Snape is trying to curse Harry. But it turns out it was Quirrell, and Snape was muttering a counter curse. That is a good point. Why doesn't it happen during every match? I would assume there's some kind of relegation or regulation for that. But we do have here Hermione basically cursing someone who deserves the spot and forcing him to lose so her friend can be in the spot.
Right.
Very interesting here.
And 3, on that point, Hermione obviously knows nothing about sports because she basically used the phrase, "He's big and mean and tough. You don't want him on your side."
I think that's what you want on your side.
It's exactly what you want on your side, especially in a sport like Quidditch, which seems to be half football, half soccer with all of the physical contact that is allowed. But McLaggen is undoubtedly on luck serum, so it will be okay that Hermione did this.
Okay, all right. Well, I've never met a very short-statured, kind, gentle football player. So I do think you're right there. This is the kind of man you would want on the team. So Hermione is basically weakening Harry's team by getting Ron the spot.
Yes.
So maybe it's a confidence booster for Ron. Maybe this is something like saying, hey, man, you got this. You did that confidence building thing here. But to the extreme. To the point where Hermione, who is seen as the symbol of, good, the person of, what's the word I'm looking
Character?
for? The
high moral ground?
High moral ground. Hermione always does right. Through this entire book, she's complained about Harry using anything from the Half-Blood Prince's book because it's morally wrong.
No, she complains about that because she's a hater.
Okay.
It's the same reason when a girl flirts with Ron, she gets mad. And when a girl flirts with Harry, she gets mad. That's why Hermione does this. You'd think she'd be excited to have more tools for the good guys.
Okay.
But she is not.
Okay. So Hermione is just in it for herself.
I think there's a difference between trying to be in it for yourself and wanting to be the best.
Okay.
Hermione not only wants to be the best, but she undoubtedly thinks that she is, and thinks that she is entitled to this because of her work ethic, which is a little bit why it is that she doesn't understand anything about sports. Some people are just better.
Okay. Fair assessment. If we want to talk into the sports a bit here, it is interesting. Because you could have a team of some of the greatest players that just don't work well together.
Just don't work well together, aren't good guys.
Yeah.
Right?
But then again, you can have a team of people who just produce wins. And sometimes that one guy can really change the entire game, just having him on the field. And maybe arguably this is this character that Hermione's cursed.
I'm not sure what you're going for there.
Well, we have,
you think he would be a game changer.
Maybe he would have been a game changer. So maybe Hermione is hurting the team by doing this.
He seems to have been better suited to be a beater. Is that the
Yes.
the violent character on the field?
Yes.
Yeah, if I were Harry, I would have approached him about that because he also rues the fact that both of the Weasleys are gone because they were excellent beaters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So interesting stuff going on with Hermione.
Which
here.
says again that J.K. Rowling doesn't know anything about sports either.
Well,
That if you want to be the goaltender, you have to be the goaltender.
okay. Keeper, I believe is the Quidditch term, but
I don't care.
we're getting there. So Hermione has continued to fall in that sense for you.
Yeah, Hermione's a terrible character.
And Hermione
she is
started
not-
as one of your favorites.
Yeah, she has not quite dropped to the level of Diddley Door supporting a rapist, but yeah, she's on that route. She's on that route.
Okay. How do you feel about Hagrid and Aragog?
Eragon's the big spider.
The big spider from the
First book,
second book?
Was it the second?
I believe it's the second.
I'm sure it will come back. I'm sure that this Eragon character will probably sacrifice himself or something.
Okay. I do think it's interesting that as tensions are building, we get a little bit of symbolism with the forest here. Because the forest in any sense of literature always means bad things. Don't go into the forest at night. That stems from early literature. The forest is not a place you want to be. Aragog would be considered king of his domain. He is a major player in who rules this forest.
Really?
Absolutely. As big of a creature he is, he's the king of the spiders. He's feared by all. The fact that he is dying and there's no successor, that's pointing towards a shift in possibly the dynamics of the forest here. Now, we've had a little bit with the centaurs. The centaurs are kind of their own people. They do their own thing in the forest.
The forest seems to be constantly in flux.
Yes, but if there was a place for the bad guys, it's always the forest.
Right.
And now the big king, the protector, the one who rules this forest is dying. So the forest will be at its weakest point.
Oh, okay. That's what that's trying to say?
I think that's where we're going with that here.
Well, you still got the whole bunch of centaurs in the forest.
There's a bunch of centaurs in the
don't
forest.
like anyone.
Grop has left the forest as well.
Right.
So that little, symbol of, maybe the good guy there, just the big dumb guy who can protect us is also out of the forest. So I think there is something trying to be worked on there with the symbolism of, the forest is falling. Because the forest is the outside lining of the castle.
Right.
Now,
is the forest under the no apparition protection as well?
I don't necessarily believe so. It is Hogwarts and the grounds of Hogwarts.
Okay.
I would assume possibly chunks of it, but, the forest is still its own entity. It's its own thing. So, if you were going to plan an attack on Hogwarts...
That's where you would stage it.
That's where you'd stage it. Absolutely so. So I think that is an important thing to keep in mind with that there. What else are you feeling with this here?
Either Harry will use one of the curses of the Half-Blood Prince on the Half-Blood Prince.
Okay.
Or the Half-Blood Prince will use one of these curses on him. And that will be the big revelation of who the Half-Blood Prince is.
Okay.
It would be... I'm not sure which would be better.
Okay.
Both of them stand to have their narrative. So if Harry uses the Half-Blood Prince's curse on the Half-Blood Prince, he calls him out immediately. If the Half-Blood Prince uses the curse on Harry, Harry might not say anything.
But he
might
reveals
just
himself
know,
to Harry.
No, he wouldn't. He would reveal himself to Harry on the down low. He would not know he's revealing himself to Harry.
Okay.
Unless this is Slughorn's book.
Okay. There is a little bit of the fear of the unknown, if you would. Maybe I'm just in a Shirley Jackson mood. I've been banging out this horror genre. But there is a fear of the unknown with spells that you don't know the outcome to.
Well, that would be just like anything.
I think so. But Hermione makes it a huge point that we shouldn't be meddling in this. These might not be ministry-approved spells.
Well, the only sort of point she really... Well, you shouldn't be using them on your friends if you don't know what they do, especially when it's called Levi Corpus, which sounds like raising the dead. And it makes me wonder if this individual is... Was there a worry that this was... Yeah, they said they were worried this was a budding Death Eater, right? That's why he was making up all these spells and things?
There was, at the beginning of Silver and Opals, the driver of the night bus, is that who it is, was arrested for being a possible Death Eater, and Harry was very much against that idea.
Well, but didn't Hermione suggest that the Half-Blood Prince could be a Death Eater?
I think possibly. I would have to
Maybe I'm putting that in
double-check.
the text, but if I am putting that in the text, I don't think I am putting that in the text. I think it's there.
Okay.
But I think that the concern there would be the Death Eaters were able to raise the dead, right? What are they called?
Inferi?
Inferi. One would imagine that if this is one of those people, Levi Corpus would be a spell which would be attempting to get to that point.
Okay.
Because it sounds like the Inferi was a lot of times when you're talking about dark wizards and dark magicians and things like that, they're dealing with magic which has been lost for generations.
Okay.
So they're sort of the mad scientist that has to re-find it.
Fair.
So I would imagine I imagine that a curse like Inferi would be tried to be thrown away by the good guys at every cost.
Okay.
In every generation.
And that seems to be a small trope of fantasy literature. There is the bad guys tend to dabble in the spells that deal with raising the dead. Spells that are considered not great for the good guys, bad things, dealing with blood magic, dealing with, dead bodies, things like that, and magic that has been forbidden to the point of being forgotten. So it is an interesting point. This is also Harry's first successful nonverbal spell.
Yeah.
Because we were playing a little bit with the nonverbals beforehand in this book, and now this is the first time Harry has been successful in using this nonverbal spell. So not only is the Half-Blood Prince moving Harry forward in potions class, he's moving him forward overall as a wizard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's definitely in the text. This is also the first time that Harry tries something magical extracurricularly.
Okay.
So all the stuff in Defense Against the Dark Arts League, or whatever it was called, that they did together, was stuff that they had learned and Harry had to perfect on his own.
Okay.
This is the first time that he's going above and beyond those things, as far as I remember anyway.
And that's an interesting point there is, in this world, if Adrian was in the Harry Potter world, I would wholeheartedly feel you would do everything you could to learn as much as you could.
I'd be trying to raise the dead.
When you're given that power, you would. Even when you're in a literature class, once you get exposed to something you enjoy, you start seeking other avenues to improve upon yourself. Really, Harry just seems to be a character of circumstance. He's thrown into this, and he just happens to be good at it, but he doesn't make the effort to become better.
Right.
He perfects what is given to him, but he doesn't expand upon that.
Which is a bit troubling when you're talking about children's literature, is it not?
I would agree.
And it's troubling that the one character who does that, Hermione, is being turned more and more into the nagging mother type.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Like, I can understand why a kid would enjoy this. I'm really not sure why a second generation of reader is now trying to instill Harry Potter in their children.
Okay.
For the life of me, I cannot, unless they simply have not read it since they read it the first time. Because there's nothing positive in these texts. There is nothing encompassing in these texts. There is nothing progressive in these texts. There is nothing in these texts to hobble your child to the next stage of development.
Well, wanting to pass on something from your childhood is a bit of nostalgia. And I think every parent does that, whether that's beneficial or not.
I mean, racism was passed down for generations.
Fair, but like...
Poverty's passed down for generations.
You ever watch Wacky Races? Do you know what Wacky Races are?
No.
It's a cartoon from like the early 70s, something like that. Hugely popular thing. That's something, my parents came back on, they're like, absolutely, we're going to watch Wacky. You're going to sit right here and watch Wacky Races, because that's what I did when I was a kid. And I turned out just fine. So I do think that is something that parents do.
Sure. I'm not arguing that that's something parents do. What I'm arguing is whether or not that is something parents should do.
Okay.
Especially when you're talking about a lot of the Harry Potter generation, you're talking about people who consider themselves extremely progressive. Am I incorrect?
Fair.
So when looking at these texts, has there been a single book now which has not had something regressive on a social front, whether that is subversive or not?
Well, I think you're making the point for other. So
the first 2 books I don't even think pass the Bechdel test.
Okay.
I think the third one does because of a conversation with Ginny and her mother, which Ginny at that time is, 6?
Very young.
So it's hard to say.
Okay.
By the way, how old is Ginny?
She is a few years younger than Harry and Ron for sure. So at the oldest, I would say she's 13, 14.
Really?
At this point in time.
Okay. Because I'm still reading her as a much younger character.
Well, no. Because Ginny was introduced.
In the first book.
But she was in school in the second book.
So she's like a year younger,
She's
right?
a year younger, yes. But she's written as a much younger character.
Yeah, she's written as a much
Absolutely.
younger character. She is not involved in anything. In fact, there's even a place in these 2 chapters here. So we make a point when Slughorn comes up and starts talking to Harry and Hermione. And Ron says, and we get it mentioned in the text, it's as if Ron isn't even there. Do you remember that little bit?
Not off the top of my head, but...
Okay, well, that's in there. There's a little point where Slughorn is trying to get Harry to come to one of his parties.
Okay.
And Hermione is not... Hermione is there, and she's not interested, but she plays along.
Okay.
I think it's slightly before that Ron, Hermione, and Harry are hanging out. Ginny comes up and says something, and she's in the group. And then I believe it's someone else from Quidditch or something. I can't remember the exact... I wasn't prepared to talk about this. Someone else comes up and says something to the group and does not address Ginny.
Okay.
But it is never mentioned that person is left out. That Ginny is left out. So it is still as if that character does not exist in this group.
Okay. Ginny does seem to be a passive character. The first time we're really introduced to her, she is, for lack of better terms, the damsel in distress that Harry has to rescue.
It seems like she is reintroduced to these texts in part so that they pass the Bechdel test, because she's who Hermione talks to.
Okay.
She is with whom Hermione complains about things.
Okay.
Those are the 2 that get along when Hermione is playing the role of mother.
Okay. We do have a couple other female characters who are throughout this. We have Luna Lovegood as well. We have female professors such as Professor McGonagall. So I don't know. I think there are some other interactions between female characters for sure.
Are there?
I would argue yes.
You would argue yes. Do you have case points for yes?
I would have to go back and look through.
The only person we ever really see McGonagall talk to is Harry.
Okay.
Sometimes she yells at Ron. Luna Lovegood, which if that's who you're trying to pass off as a positive female character, good luck, but we never really get her talking to anyone. She simply speaks into the air.
Okay.
And someone may or may not reply.
She does kind of just live in her own little world, talk to herself, and ramble about things no one seems to care about.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
okay.
It's a sexist text.
Interesting. How do you feel about the idea of cursed items coming back into play? Now, we had the ring with Dumbledore, which has obviously had some kind of curse to it that it's pretty much killed his hand. And now we have the introduction of this necklace that has clearly been cursed as well. And we're led to believe this might have been the item that Draco was seeking at Borgin and Botts, but Draco was in detention, so how could he have been, given this item to Katie, is it?
Yeah, Katie. The reason I don't believe that Malfoy did this is that Harry is so adamant that he did.
Okay.
And I think we've had several examples in the text before where Harry was completely adamant about something, and all of our surrounding characters questioned him. So with all of the moldy-voldy stuff, our characters around Harry never question him.
Okay.
Everyone else does. But this time, I can't remember what the other example was. This is something that Harry is absolutely adamant about, and Hermione's saying, I don't really think so, and Ron's saying, I don't really know. So that makes me think that he did not do it.
Okay.
But B, I think that this was probably either intended for... So I've got 2 suspicions.
Okay.
This is intended for Hermione or Ginny, because it's a necklace, right?
Okay.
And it was... Malfoy said, how would I look walking down the street in that? Which leads me to believe that it is an effeminate necklace.
Okay.
So if it was either intended for Hermione or Ginny, because they are the people in close proximity to Harry. If it is not an effeminate necklace, it is simply Malfoy said that because it is known to be a cursed item, or because the shop owner himself knew that it was a cursed item, then it was intended for Snape, because someone is convinced that Snape is a double agent.
Okay.
So that's what. So it's an assassination attempt on Snape.
Okay.
Because we also don't get so far this book, unless I'm mistaken, we've had one interaction with Malfoy and Snape. And it wasn't Snape saying anything to Malfoy. It was just Snape being a prick and Malfoy laughing.
Okay.
So we don't really get a strong bond between Snape and the... what is that house called?
Slytherin?
Slytherin house.
Okay. Well, Snape is head of Slytherin, and obviously he favors Slytherin. It is in the text that one of the strongest bonds possible has been made between Draco and Snape, but I do think you're right. I don't think we've had any interaction between the two that would further that point. But they did make the unbreakable vow, and I do believe coming soon, maybe in a week or two, we're going to get a little more on that particular, the vow that was made. So maybe we'll get a little more clarification with that there for you. Anything else you're wanting to hit with Harry Potter on here?
Well, if we're talking about literary criticism, I would like you to keep Freud in mind as I read this. That was different, he said robustly. They were abusing it. Harry and his dad were just having a laugh. You don't like the prince, Hermione, he added, pointing a sausage at her sternly, because he's better than you at potions.
Okay.
I'm not going to make any other observation there. I'm simply going to present the text.
Just going to read the text and move on?
I think that's all I have to do.
Okay. Well, I mean, sometimes you go to dinner, you got to wave your sausage at people.
I don't know that's true.
Okay.
I don't know that's necessary.
Okay,
Are
fair
you a
enough.
sausage waver?
On occasions, you never know when you need to wave a good sausage around.
All right.
All right. Little Freudian slip there. Okay. Anything else beyond Freud?
One observation which puts J.K. Rowling strictly within the realm of waspish. On page 253 we get the quote, "All right," said Professor McGonagall, not unkindly. "Go up to the hospital wing, please, Leanne, and get Madame Pomfroy to give you something for shock." All of this pill popping.
Okay.
All of this pill popping. Whatever happens, whatever makes you slightly uncomfortable, go get a Prozac from the hospital.
It does seem like at any point in time, any character is having any kind of malady, they're like, oh, you should probably go see Madame Pomfrey immediately.
Not even a malady. She's not having a malady. Katie's got the malady, not Leanne. So Leanne's just uncomfortable.
Okay.
Leanne is upset.
Okay.
So go get some happy pills.
Well, that is a very upper class way of thinking, I guess the way to put it.
Very
Okay.
waspish.
Waspish.
That is the what do they call it? The opioid epidemic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Better living through chemical dependence. This is the magical world, so basically take away the chemicals and better living through magic.
Yeah, I mean it's a direct one-for-one translation. So what doesn't magic translate to in these books?
I don't believe magic it translates to pretty much anything, and I believe that's what gaps the bridge between realism and fantasy in this.
It should be.
Okay. Are you arguing that something doesn't?
No, I'm just simply saying that she uses it for everything.
Okay.
There's not even even the Lux serum as a performance enhancer.
Okay.
That's lazy. So there is the Civil War comics in Marvel Comics, not the movies, but the comics.
Okay.
One of the inciting events was there was basically a steroids for your superpowers.
Okay.
And one of these mutants who could project energy out from himself basically set himself up as a bomb and set himself off in a school playground.
Okay.
Boom. Okay, now all of you people have to be registered because we don't want this to happen again. So there it was something that could be manipulated and put into your skills. Because in the comics, mutants have to develop their skills with their powers. Here, it is just a magic serum that makes everything turn out right. It doesn't enhance your magical capabilities so that someone could still overpower you, Although Hermione, I'm pretty sure that at the beginning of this, Hermione enchants the kid who's on the luck serum. So that's my suspicion. But even then, if a regular enchantment is allowed to overthrow the luck serum, is it really a luck serum?
Okay, interesting. If we want to do superhero references, I think the character of Domino would be a good example for how the luck serum works.
Right, but even in the movie Deadpool 2, we get that's just lazy writing.
Okay.
Right? He makes that quip. That's not very cinematic.
Fair. We are going to get into that a lot more next week.
Into what? It doesn't
Felix
matter.
Felicis.
I'll get there.
Okay,
Yeah.
the luck serum.
Yeah.
Actually, we're going to have an entire chapter devoted to the luck serum next week. So I think we're going to have some arguments on there. We're going to have some sports-themed arguments, so you should feel good about that at least.
Does Harry take it prior to a performance?
Well, we'll find out now, won't we? Now, won't we?
Maybe.
Anything else you want to end on here before we wrap up this week in Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Okay.
This sucks.
Fair enough. You feel better about yourself?
No.
Okay.
I still have to read Harry Potter.
We'll be back next week. We will do Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, chapters 13, chapters 14. That will be chapter 13, The Secret Riddle, and 14, Felix Felicis. We'll get into the luck serum a little bit more. So if you do like this kind of thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. We do Adrian Reads Harry Potter every week, and I feel like you're just getting the point of loving it. And make sure you give this video a like down below as well.